All right, back here on Inside Wrestling Radio, and today on the telephone we have Michael Elliot. And last week, if you were listening to the program, we replayed our classic interview with the Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant. And the reason we did that is because there's a new documentary out on the Boogie Woogie Man. And in having plugged that and having some information on the internet about it, I've found out that the guy who has been responsible for that documentary is indeed Michael Elliot. So we're going to have him on today to tell us about the documentary, how it came about, and the reason for doing it, and all kind of things like that. Right now, welcome to the program, Michael Elliot. Michael, how you doing, man?
Oh, mustache. I feel good, Ricky. How you feeling?
been hanging around the Boogie Woogie Man a while, I see, huh?
Yeah, I'm a cheap rip-off, man. I tried.
Very good. Listen, bro, I watched the trailer you got up there online. You got it on your YouTube page there, and we'll plug all that stuff for you in just a few minutes. But, man, I'm going to tell you, the production on that thing is really, really well done. And it looks like you tracked down a lot of legends to help you with that thing. Let me ask you this first before we get into all that, though. Why Jimmy Valiant?
Why not Jimmy Valiant, I say. Jimmy's just a good friend. I mean, I met him, and we just started exchanging emails, and we just kind of agreed to do it. I read his book 3 times, and I was just like, man, this is like a movie. You got a movie in the making from the book, so like, let's do it. And he was on board, and his wife was on board, and so we got started on it.
Yeah, I tell you, Jimmy is a very interesting character, man. Been around a long time. I mean, he goes back to the WWF, and I mean, that cat's done about everything you can do. And I think he said he's had over something like 2,000 or plus matches in his career. Just a phenomenal character, and I really, to be honest with you, couldn't think of a more interesting guy to interview, to do a documentary on. I'm tell you something. While I was watching your trailer there, and I haven't seen the documentary yet, and I apologize for that, but I have seen the trailer and some of the excerpts from it. Tell you, man, that guy really, I mean, that brings back a lot of memories and a lot of fun. And the reason why I got into wrestling in the first place was guys like Jimmy Valiant, man. What's your earliest remembrances of wrestling?
Man, I started watching wrestling when I was 3 with my grandma at her house. My first memory of Jimmy Valiant, though, was in Clover, South Carolina. It was I think it was at the high school when he was in a tag team match. And the reason why I'll never forget that first Jimmy Valiant match I saw was because he was running around the ring doing all this crazy stuff. And the thing that stuck out in my mind the most was he kept grabbing his opponents below the belt with his hands and running around the ring with it. And I just thought that was the coolest thing I ever seen. Some guy doing that in wrestling.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the first memory I have of him. But I've been watching wrestling for about 15, 20 years, I'd say. But yeah, I mean, Jimmy is he's crazy, man. But when you meet him in person, he's just so calm and he's so cool, and you wouldn't expect him to be like that from seeing him on TV all those years.
There's not very many people in the business like Jimmy Valiant, and I'm going to tell you something. If you look at wrestling from that era, and I'm talking specifically about the 80s when he really came up big in the NWA, and he was big in the WWF too, don't get me wrong, but I'm talking about when I started coming up in wrestling and started really paying attention to it was in the 80s. And you look at those characters like him and like the Road Warriors and the Rock and Roll Express, the Midnight Express, they're just not guys like that out there now. Very few that will grab your attention and make you want to watch every week. And Jimmy Valiant, of course, being one of those individuals from back in the day. What was one of your greatest things that you learned while doing this documentary about the Boogie Woogie Man and about that era as a whole? Well,
the thing that I learned that I didn't know because I wasn't around when this happened, but he nearly lost his life with the battle of hepatitis, and in the documentary he talks all about that, almost losing his life to that illness, and then that's also where the third Valiant brother came from. But what I learned was that those guys, they were different and they were unique, and like you said, there's not a lot of guys like that around today, and I don't even watch it today because they're all the same, they all look the same, they all do the same things, and I don't even watch wrestling anymore because it's just not like it was in the 80s and early 90s for me.
Yeah,
I just don't even pay much attention to it.
Sure, it's not as character-driven as it once was. I mean, you could have, back then, man, you could have your Flairs and your, like I said, the Road Warriors and your Jimmy Valiants. Those guys were all, just larger-than-life individuals, but you could still, and they were all interesting in and of themselves and what they were doing as far as their storylines were going. Of course, you had the Horsemen feuding with with whoever, and you had Boogie Woogie, you know, feuding with Paul Jones. And I mean, that stuff, man, it all had its own place, and it was all interesting, and it was something that you wanted to see every week. And there's just not anything like that now in today's you know, product. And I talked to Jimmy about that a little bit when I had him on in his original interview here on this show that I did sometime earlier that we played last week. And I asked him, I said, Jimmy, what's your opinion on today's product? And of course, Jimmy, being the good heart that he is, said that he loves everything and he wants to be an ambassador. Did he go into any more detail with you about his opinions on today's product?
No, he didn't. And he just talked about how he teaches the old school, because if he doesn't teach it at a school, BWC up in Virginia,
yeah,
he talks about teaching the old school, because he says if he doesn't teach it, you know, it's going to be a lost art. But they're also teaching, you know, the new stuff that you'll see on today's WWE, but he's also trying to instill in his students what he learned coming up in the business, and because he doesn't want it to be lost, because he knows it's really not that a big focus in today's wrestling world.
Yeah, it's changed so much, especially in the training aspect. Of course, it's changed tremendously. And I know he runs that school there in Virginia. Tell us a little bit about, because I know you went there and did some of your work at that location. Tell us a little bit about Jimmy's, Boogie's training camp there in Virginia.
Oh, it's amazing, man. I didn't know what to expect when I went there. When you get there, it's in the mountains of Virginia.
Yeah.
And you go down all these long, windy, curvy roads. And then all of a sudden, there's these three big white buildings on a hill that say Boogie's Wrestling Camp on them. And then when you get up there, man, you know, he's there. He's got like the Boogie bike and all the cars from when he was in the Valiant Brothers. And you go in there, and there's pictures everywhere from his entire career. I mean, he's saved everything. So if you go there, and it's not just him, it's guys from the 70s and the 80s and the 90s that's on his wall. I mean, it's like a museum. Well, it is a museum. He calls it the Hall of Fame Museum. I mean, it was amazing just to see all that stuff and to see what he's kept from over the years. It's really a cool place to go. And if you haven't been there, Ricky, you need to go up there one Sunday.
Yeah, when I had him on, he extended the invitation for us to come up and check out his place, man. And I tell you what, before I get out of this business 100%, I definitely want to do that and check out Boogie's place. I've heard I would hear things about it back in the day when I was coming up, you know, in the 80s and 90s, when I was out there really, doing a lot of more wrestling. And you would hear about, got to go to Boogie's, and they would say interesting things like you mentioned right there, Boogie's camp, and he would have everything was Boogie's this, Boogie's that, you know, like I think he even had on his boots Boogie's boots, you know. So it just speaks to his, the character that he is. What was, and I know you traveled a lot. You mentioned when you and I were talking previous to this interview, you were telling me about some of the traveling that you did to run down some of these guys who spoke about Boogie. Tell me a little bit about that.
And we went everywhere and anywhere we could to get these guys to talk to us. I mean, it was a lot of traveling involved. I spent a lot of time on the road. It took me a good year just to get this thing completed. I went all the way to Philadelphia to talk with Bill Apter. I worked my 9-hour shift at work. I went home and slept for an hour, and then we got on the road and drove 11 straight hours to Philadelphia. And the next day we nailed down an interview with Bill Apter. And we also went over to the Pro Wrestling Illustrated office and got some magazine covers featuring Jimmy and the Valiant Brothers on them for the documentary. Another long trip was about a 5-hour drive to Greenville, North Carolina, just to talk with the Russian Bear Ivan Koloff, and that was a great experience. Ivan and his wife Renee, they were so good to us, and they brought us some North Carolina barbecue. But the thing I remember from that interview was just sitting there in front of him and him start talking in the Russian accent. It was so cool. I had the biggest smile on my face when he was doing it, because I was just like sitting there watching him on TV, but he was 5 feet from me.
Yeah,
it was just.
It's like,
I mean,
it's like reliving history, man. Because I remember the first time I met Ivan, and you used to that persona that he portrayed on TV, and then to hear him speak in his regular voice is actually quite shocking if you're not ready for it, because he doesn't sound anything like the Russian Bear.
Yeah, he was so soft-spoken, and it was a shock. It was a shock for me.
Yeah, and it was cool to see that in your clip on your documentary that I saw there, that you had Ivan speaking some about it, and he's speaking in his regular voice, which was interesting to see. Who out of those people that you interviewed, and tell me, who all did you interview for this documentary?
Well, like I said, Bill Apter, Ivan Koloff. Obviously, we talked with Jimmy and his lovely wife Angel. and a lot of his students. We covered a lot of his students in the school chapter we did. We also talked with Jim Cornette, Ricky Morton, number one George South, and there's a guy in North Carolina that wrestles on Independence, is Rob Boogie Woogie Man McBride.
Yeah.
And a promoter out of Tennessee that rode around the roads with Jimmy a lot. His name is Bo James. And I think that's about it.
Yeah, gotcha. Very cool, man. Well, like I said, just from the 2-minute clip I saw of it, it looks like a true labor of love, and you put a lot into it, and the production on it is just fabulous. You know, a lot of these independently done documentaries really don't come off as professionally as you would like, but this one really looks good. And the name of it again, Woo Mercy, the Jimmy Valiant Experience, and it's all over Facebook. He actually has a Facebook page set up, the Jimmy Valiant. Just punch in Jimmy Valiant documentary there on Facebook, and that page will pop up. And also you can get a copy of it at Elbow Productions. That's ELLBOW Productions at Weebly.com. And we'll talk about all that stuff when we get back from the break. We're up on a break right now, Michael. When we get back, I want to talk to you a little bit more about this thing and how you come about putting it together. And you also told me some interesting things about some more people you got coming up in the future, and we'll talk about that as well. And all that's coming up next right here on Inside Wrestling Radio.